Hello, and welcome to this Photoshop tutorial where we're going to talk about the Shapes tool. Sometimes we may want to create some unique shapes to manipulate into our work in Photoshop. Well, Photoshop has a feature called Shapes tool where underneath the Type tool you'll see, sometimes by default, the Rectangle tool. These are custom kind of shapes that we can create in Photoshop. There's some pretty standard ones: rectangles with round edges, ellipses, polygons, line tools, and the custom shapes tool. I'm not going to go over all of them. I encourage you to explore for yourself, but I will show you how they generally work and spend more time focusing on the custom shapes tool, which you'll find more interesting, I'm sure. So I'm going to select the rectangle tool. I'm going to create a new layer. When I create the layer, I can create squares on this layer, rectangles. If I hold the Shift key down, it will create them as perfect squares. If I don't hold the Shift key down, then I can adjust it so I can make more rectangles. However, before you start drawing, you might want to pay attention to up here at the top that allows you to dictate what it's going to be that you're going to create. And what I mean by that is not necessarily the shape, but the type of shape. Yes, it's a rectangle. However, I can create that as a shape, as a path, or as pixels. Generally speaking, you want to go with pixels. Pixels are easily manipulated. And so now, it's the familiar pixels, just like you've seen in the previous demos and in some of your projects. Again, Adobe likes to give you as much flexibility as possible, so it just kind of depends on what you want to do. But, just to show you, I have it set to pixels, but I can also select the type of pixels it's going to be. I can even pre-select its opacity level. So if I want it transparent when I create it, I can do that. Or if I need smart object layers and shapes, or paths that I can bring into, say, Adobe Illustrator or InDesign, that's when these paths and shapes come in handy. Well, we'll stick with pixels for this demo. And now I want to show you that one more thing. Whatever your foreground color is what is going to be the color that your pixels fill in, even if it's shape. Paths will never give you a fill color or a stroke color. So whatever your background color is, when you start to draw, or rather your foreground color, when you start to draw your shape, that's what color shows up. When I select the Custom Shape tool, up here at the top, it's going to ask what kind of shape that I want. And this is where the real fun can become. Right now you'll see that it's an arrow. So if I click and drag, it gives me pixels in the shape of an arrow. And they're black based off of my foreground color. And there's another one based off the foreground color. Now they're on their own layer right now, so if I want to create one on a new layer, I would create a new layer and draw it freehand, so that's a different shape. I can then also use these shapes and I can transform them if I want. When you have pixels, the transform feature will allow you to do all the transforms that you want to it. But when you have smart objects or path, you're not going to be able to transform them as much. It will limit you on what you can transform. Again, why I usually recommend that you use pixels. But I'm not limited to just arrows. If I click on the arrow, in this particular case, you'll see that I can draw a variety of different things. When I click on it and then click and drag, it can then give me whatever it is that I wish as a shape. But if I click on it again, and I click this little dial, I have access to all these different types of shapes that I can create. This is where it gets really kind of fun. So let's select animals. This dialog box will come up, and what it means is that I can either hit append, meaning that it will add the animal shapes to this existing shapes, or if I hit OK, it will turn off these shapes and just turn on the animals. I usually recommend OK because if you start turning on too many of them, it's going to get a little busy in here and hard for you to find what you're looking for. So let's just click OK. And these are the animal shapes that I can choose from. So if I click on this bird and click and drag, I hold my shift key, it creates a dove. Let's create another layer. Click on this little arrow next to the shape and click on the dial here, and I can pick another library. If I click and expand my box, then it will show me other things that I have as choices. Select what I want. Let's change the foreground color. Make sure that I'm on my top layer. Click and drag. And I can change these shapes because they're pixels. I can change their color, and I can also transform them. This is how I use the Shapes tool and Custom Shapes tool in Photoshop.